Call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. All members are present. Approval of the agenda. We have one addition, 7J, approve of the agreement with Silversmith Asset Management. Is there any other changes? Council? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with that change?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Diane. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Shellen. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approval of the minutes, the March 2nd, 2022 regular meeting. I'll receive them in your packet. Is there any corrections, changes, clarification needed in those minutes? Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to approve the March 2nd, 2022 regular meeting minutes?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Heidi, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Joe. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. This brings us to our public open forum. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Call a third time. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Our public open forum is closed. We have no public hearings. We'll move on to our reports and presentations. Stearns County Attorney Report, Janelle Kendall.
Good evening. Glad to be back in Sauk Center and see people out around. Awesome. We have a city report for you. As you'll see, we had a lot of activity across the county, but the criminal activity in Sauk Center was actually down last year. So let's talk first, as we always do on the front page, about the cases that didn't go to court. Our diversion program shrunk a lot last year because the juvenile crime dropped pretty much right through the floor. Over the last couple of years, part of it has been the kids not being in school, not having contact with each other, and maybe not out, in places altogether as much as they were. But countywide and statewide, and in fact nationwide, we've seen juvenile crime just drop dramatically. So a lot of those first-time offenders just never came. We saw, I'll say more of adult offenders, shoplifting, some of those lower-level crimes. And so we spent a majority of the time this last year on that in our diversion program. So 2 persons from Sauk Center went to diversion and did their community service, did what they're supposed to do. We didn't have any kids this last year. So as we go to the next page, and we look at the red and blue, those are the misdemeanors that we handle under contract as your city attorney. As you can see, your numbers there came back up to pre-COVID numbers. We saw most of the lower-level crime on the drop. The officers were not out writing tickets. The officers had bigger fish to fry in the last couple of years, so we weren't seeing as much traffic enforcement necessarily across the county. That dropped here last year too, but as you can see, it's right back up. The year before last, it was right back up last year. We saw the use of the jail go right back up to where it was, and really saw a lot of things get back to a pretty normal situation. We had court on and off in terms of jury trials. We had regular court hearings go pretty much throughout because we did all of it virtually by Zoom. We actually found that people were more likely to show up for the court appearance when they could appear from their car or their house or wherever it was that they were. So actually, we got a lot of court done. But we also had a lot of jury trials. We actually set a record number of trials last year. As I think I mentioned to you folks last year, when we called the jury in Stearns County, they came. That wasn't true of all my colleagues across the state. Sometimes during times when things got rough, the juries would stop, but when they picked up again, people weren't necessarily comfortable coming in. The county board built a new felony-sized courtroom in the basement of a building. And so we had a big open space that could comply with all the requirements, the public health requirements. And so we kept our jury trials up and actually got a lot done in the last year. So we did set a record for trials. Because as you turn to that last page there and see the serious crime that happened in Sauk Center, you see you had 27 felonies last year. So those are the things for someone who much as it has been. If anything, some of the drug stops might have been down a little, but they were really high the year before that, so maybe drop back a little bit more than normal range. But overall, your serious crime has been in kind of that 15,000 or so range. We had 27 last year. And we also had some that just got dumped into the justice system now. There was a time period where things were moving more slowly. We dealt with person crimes and we dealt with dangerous individuals. And if it was property and low-level drug crimes, we left those out of the court system until they moved. So we just filed 400 of them in the last month. And that was in conjunction with the Public Defender's Office and courts. Let's have a plan of how we're going to deal with these so that they don't always sit there like they are in places. But we got a lot of those moving. So you might see those numbers be right kind of back up to where they were next year because they actually need to file in court this year. When you turn to this last page, wow, almost 1,300 felonies across the county last year. So 27 of them were yours. In a more average year, you would see about 50 felonies here, but those 27 to 50 almost 1,300. Still a pretty safe place to be. The cops are doing a good job of finding what's out there. They're doing a great job of following the law, following the Constitution. We actually looked recently at how many cases that are sent to us we're actually able to prosecute. Proof is there, all the rules have been followed, and it's going really, really well. We're seeing, especially out here in the areas where we have a lot of contact with their officers, we do a lot of training with them. We've actually had better contact with my prosecutors if they're not in court. This court is Zoom. So if they're sitting at their desk or at their kitchen table there for a while and doing court, and they're accessible to the officers. So we actually think it's improved the quality of some of what we've been able to do. We did have, unfortunately, we've had 8 homicides in the last 2 years. We had 4 homicide trials last year, so we're moving those files along. But our gun crimes actually tripled across the county last year. Tripled. That's what your officers are dealing with out there. These are felons in possession. These are people who are not possessing guns. If they're using the gun to get someone, they're over in the first crime category. And as you can see, that was almost 600. That's the highest we've ever seen. So unfortunately, we're seeing more violent crime, and we're seeing more people who are not legally possessing weapons, finding more of those. And then, as I told you about last year, a lot of people fleeing from the cops. Just kind of a general attitude. More people want to fight about it. More people are not being respectful when they're dealing with law enforcement. But at the same time, understanding that everybody's had a rough time through these last couple of years. So we're also doing our best to be dealing with people in a rational fashion. Criminal justice response is what's necessary, then okay. But if it is, and as you can see, we're seeing these numbers up. They're not necessarily up in Sauk Center, but we're seeing them up across the county, and we are having more trials, and people are in prison because of that. That's what they've done. They've done. Say the juries keep coming, and I'm afraid to have trials. That's what we need to do. So it's been a very busy year. But some people say, "Wow, I'm closed out for you." No. Actually, one of the busier years numerically in travel-wise that we've ever had. Questions?
Good job. And secondly, I'd like to thank you for helping to fill the jail there in St. Cloud. It needs filling. That's good. Thank you.
Well, most of the time, we got to keep everything staffed.
Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you.
Obviously, that's an issue in public safety and well, in a lot of professions right now. It's just a different time. We're going to get through this. But we know that it's a different time and we've had to have some different ways of dealing with this. So if it's not good just because they don't have the staff to keep that attention.
Good job.
Anyone else have any questions, comments? Keep up the good work. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Police Department report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Activity report for February 2022. Some of the numbers we had, we did 27 road checks, 39 patrols at the school. We had 18 accidents, 23 medicals, 12 assist person calls, 13 alarms, 11 welfare checks. We towed 19 vehicles. That was part of the emergency parking. We had 17 matter 7 citations for no municipal license again. Otherwise, our total was 518, so relatively a quiet month. We were down from January at 139,000, and from 2021 we're up 22,000. Pretty quiet in February.
That's the way we like it.
Yeah.
Any questions, Brian?
I would like to make a comment that I found out that today is Melissa Kleinschmidt's 14th anniversary with the police department. Went out and got some donuts for him.
Good. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you. Public Works report, Ben?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Over the past month, we had several snow cleanups that took place. We did have the Minnesota Weather Inspector came to our facility for the annual inspection on our steamer. It was found that there's some pitting taking place in the bottom of the tank, so this unit has been taken out of service. We've been looking at options that make the most sensible replacement for that unit. And right now, that unit would be used a lot of the time to thaw storm sewer lines. And we've been using the jetter from the PUC and our hot water pressure washer to get everything over them. So we'll kind of assess how that all works and make a plan for next year, what makes sense to get that boiler replaced and go from there. We remove snow from catch basin areas to allow water runoff. Street sweeper is going through its normal spring maintenance prior to starting sweeping for the year. The arena ice was removed and the building was switched over for its spring and summer events. Repairs are being made to the Olympia in preparation for next season. Airport, we are working on some issues with the fuel system, trying to diagnose why we have a recurring problem with the fuel master and chip rearing people's cars that can keep up. That's, we're up to the last one. Any questions I can answer?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Planning Commission report, Sarah?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In your packet, you have a copy of the Tuesday, March 8th Planning Commission meeting. It was our first meeting of 2020. So at that meeting, we did elect Warren Stone as the chairperson and Henry Easy as the vice chair. And you have a copy of the building permit reports from December of last year and January, February of this year. We will be looking at, in the meeting of April, we'll start discussing short-term rentals or VRBOs or Airbnbs. And informational items for the meeting calendar and fee schedule. Household hazardous waste is scheduled for June. And then education opportunities for the Planning Commission members. Any questions for me?
Questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Airport Board?
So the airport board met in regular session on Wednesday, March 9th at 1 p.m. The hangar strap project is complete, so now we're just waiting on grant reimbursement from MnDOT, and we have that sometime by this summer. So all the 11 hangar doors that will replace with straps, that's that project. We did request to amend the 2022 maintenance and operations grant that's been submitted to MnDOT, and that's just a function of using some of those funds for the hangar strap reimbursement and then infilling with the Carissa grant that we had earlier. The fuel master that Ben had referred to, we did request some MnDOT assistance for a possible grant to upgrade that. And they did call with some requesting additional information, so that sounds favorable. Sometimes when the state has extra money in the airport fund, they'll put it out to cities for smaller projects. We did talk about the land acquisition for the RPC land at the end of the turf runway, and we invited the landowners in and just had to sit down with them, and the engineer and Heidi was there and just try to talk about expectations and timelines so that we're all on the same page. And then we discussed the American Rescue Grant. That was the $32,000 federal grant that was given to the city. And we've already approved the federal side of it, but now on your council agenda tonight, you have an agency agreement for the transfer of the funding. So I apply to MnDOT, they get it from the federal government, and it passes back through MnDOT back to me. So this is just to approve how the money flows to get it back. And that's an agenda item 7
Questions? Comments? Okay, then we'll move on to our action items. 7A, approve resolution 2022-24, change orders for the 2022 street project, Second Street.
So at the council meeting on March 2nd, you awarded the bid for the 2022 street improvement project. At that time, you directed the city engineer to prepare some change orders to the project to be brought back before the council. These included reducing the scope of the full reconstruct to be west of Oak Street only, to reduce the reclamation area to include Park Road and Hickman Drive only and remove the side streets, and to remove the truck stop stormwater improvements, and then there was the go from 2 year to 1 year. And those were the things that has been prepared, and I did include the cost and estimates, or the cost and assessment summary that was provided by the engineer. And Chuck is here tonight if you have any questions for him at this point.
Okay. Comments, questions?
I guess the only real questions that I still have is with the reclamation piece. If we don't do the side streets, like we were kind of talking about, at what point will we be looking at needing to have something done with those? And will that possibly entail a full reconstruct?
Sure. So originally the overall plan, the utilities in that area have about 20 years of life, threshold water we're looking at. So in 20 years, we'll probably do a full reconstruct for Park, Hickman, that whole neighborhood. Park and Hickman does see more traffic, which is good that we're doing a little bit of reclamation on that portion. The side streets, not as much. Probably get by with a seal coat, crack filling for those side streets. Probably get you by for 20 years. I don't think you'll do a little bit of renovation between now and 20 years.
Okay. I guess my biggest question with removing parts of it is it came under the feasibility study. So I don't know. I think to me, having that in there makes sense.
You mean as far as putting it back in,
Leaving it in, yeah.
leaving it in? I think the main gist of the whole discussion that night was trying to get it back down to what our engineer's estimate was. And I think we kind of understood that the assessments were going to go up, but 35% of it's assessed, 65 was, if I remember, 65% of it's ours, and we can put that back in. But when we come to levy for next year to pay for that bond, that extra overrun that we got, we're going to have to be able to sit and look at ourselves and say, okay, we're increasing our levy 10% or whatever it is, because of what we did now. So it's kind of that catch-22 situation. We can put it back in, but it's also going to raise our bonding money out. So we're going to have to raise our levy up.
And I guess I understand that. I guess my biggest concern would be is to say, well, the reclamation piece came in under where the feasibility study was. So in order to compensate for everything being more expensive, we're going to remove certain parts. So I kind of feel like it's sort of a shell game where are we doing the best service to the people who are there as opposed to on other parts to compensate for the overall price. So that's, I guess, where my biggest struggle that I'm hitting is. I don't know.
Yeah, and I understand your concern on that. I don't know if anybody else has got any comments.
I think one thing to consider too as we take on potentially more bonding is, obviously you look at interest rates now, and we're expecting rising rates, that when we do these projects is, even if we see a lower cost, are we going to end up paying more in the long run because materials have gotten more expensive and rates have gone up when we do need to do those projects. So, something worth consideration on that end.
But if the full reconstruction happens in 20 years, we can't predict what would happen at that point. So saving that, what was the difference? Like $2.5 million from adding everything in that we originally planned to what the initial projected cost was, the feasibility?
Yes, what change order
So, and the one thing on the reclamation, you know, we could maybe add back in Lakeview and Park Lane, but to me, we could easily do Kennecott and Hendricks when we do that new addition where we just bought the land. So.
Right. And that's true.
And that's one of those things that them people could just jump across, you know, them same people. At that point, maybe we include that reclamation on those loops at the same time, because those streets are gonna get affected anyway.
Yep.
So then you're only looking at maybe a 1 year.
Right.
1 year gap instead of, yeah, when are we gonna actually do them loops?
And the plan is for 2023 for that street
Well,
project?
for at least 20 lots, I would think, or the south half.
Yeah.
Is what we were kinda talking about, but.
I think spreading it out over at least a couple years while it's still, I guess, manageable or maybe able to be projected I mean, I say that kind of tongue in cheek because we never even imagined what this would cost in the first place, but, I don't know. I would rather hold to the budget that we originally estimated for, so we're not sitting there trying to cut other things that are necessary next year to make up for it and not tax on 10% to properties that we don't know are going to be affected otherwise. I mean, the whole economy is kind of in a shuffle right now, so.
So you're talking going with what we, with the change orders?
With
that
the
we did.
change order, that's my feeling.
See, the one thing is, yeah, if we put everything back in on the reclamation, and we do that addition into that new area, you're gonna have construction traffic and tearing up road that we just reclaimed too.
Right.
Where on the main trunk, it's gonna be a little easier to probably justify, but about the time I got assessed for, like on Hendricks or something, and then all of a sudden they come in and have to refix it or tear it up, and now I just paid for a road that's junk again, because we went the next step farther, I'd be a little upset on that one too,
Right.
so.
Also on those two loops that you had mentioned, I mean, would it make sense including those and then pushing the other ones up? Or is that something that, I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't know if it'd bring the assessment down that much by adding
Yeah.
those two loops in.
Sorry.
I think our main, right,
No.
I think our main justification of reducing it was just because that way we can still get the water and sewer done on Willow and everything else.
Right.
And still not have to tax, you know, increase our taxes, our tax levy quite by that much money. So, yeah, it's all good cause what you're talking about. I see your point. It's easy to see, but it's just, which way do we want to weigh it?
Yeah, well.
You know, so I don't know if Chuck's got anything more to add or,
Well, just from an engineering standpoint, you know, the streets at Hickman, Park, and all the side streets, they're all have the same issues. Transverse, large block cracking. So they're, you know, they're the same age, same issues. Yeah, just wanted to add that.
you know, went for a walk the other night and you walk down Hickman and there's chunks of tar missing. It's jumping out, you know, just from traffic, and then you walk on Lakeview, you walk on Park Lane. Yeah, they're rough shape, but they're not near as bad as what Hickman is.
And again, yeah, like we touched on, we're gonna have that new development that we can get those projects done at that time too.
And my question, Joe, and I don't know how this differs in the consumer banking world versus government banking world. If we're what are we, a AA plus, or what's our bonding rate, AA minus? How much is that affected by the actual, you know, interest rates of the whole economy? Do we get special interest rates? Is it typically lower than what most people would see?
We do, as a government bond, because, you know, people want to buy them because of the tax benefit of them buying them, of the income that they make from them, it's got a tax benefit, so people do want And a lot of times on this size, we actually buy down the rating to get to buy up the rating, I guess it would be to a AA+. So we get a better rate. Our preliminary runs ran about 2.1%, but it's real volatile right now. So the time we actually sell bonds is what's gonna set the final rate. So we still are getting pretty positive numbers that I'm seeing. But like I said, you know how volatile the interest rates are right now. They talk about the feds are gonna increase the rates a couple times this
Three more.
year, so I imagine ours will go up. But as of today, we're still in that 2-point-something range for this particular project. So if you look at, 1% of our city budget or a city levy is about $35,000, and that can equate to the $350,000 project. So if you're looking at adding this back, you're looking at least a 1% budget increase. And so when you want to budget 4 and you levy 4 and you levy 5, 4 to 5 doesn't sound like a lot of money, but it does make a difference. So if you look at the argument, the interest rates are favorable, let's go ahead and do it. That's one thing, but we still have to levy for it when it comes this fall. You just have to be prepared for that. You have justification, or maybe the justification is we took advantage of these interest rates. And the difference to the property owners is about $100 total, like from the $3,000 to a $2,900 by spreading it out a little bit more to more people. And it was a question that Shelley had, so I looked that up. So like $105, I think, difference by would be more by not including the side streets, so more for the other people who absorb that. And of course, the big up, we have 200, our share of each lot.
So mentally, I'm thinking if we just kind of eliminate what is it, Park Lane? The loop?
Yeah, Park Lane and Lakeview.
And kind of, I guess, ride that out to see what happens over the next 15, 20 years. If what we think the infrastructure is there and seal coating can take care of it, we kind of mentally erase that. Take care of the Kennecott and Hendricks, am I right, Hendricks? With the next project, with kind of an idea that we know interest rates are going to be a little bit higher, but mentally, I'm trying to do the math on how much of an interest rate jump would eliminate any cost benefit or savings from a levy that we would enforce this year. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, and if you're looking at a $5 million bond, 1% makes a lot.
Yeah.
That makes a huge difference on your payment. You're having, $50,000 a year difference in interest alone on that part of it. So, and then that's more than 1%.
Right.
And, and all the discussion's good, and everybody's got good viewpoints and brings up good discussion, but I think we basically committed to what the engineer's estimate was going to be for the project. And when the bids came over, in good faith, we brought it back down to what the engineers were saying. Okay, we committed to 5.8. Now it's coming in way higher. In good faith, we're going to bring this back down to 5.8, even though, and then we didn't throw everything out that we won't look at a way to get this in sooner. And with the new development, I think that's a possibility of being able to bring in those parts again. But, like next year, who knows what the price of putting in water and sewer in that 41 acres is going to be. But I don't think we threw the options out to bringing them back, totally that we're not going to do it.
I think it increases the project for next year, and that's just what we have to be prepared to figure out.
And we're actually in a situation now that we got projects that are going to be probably every year for a while, because we're going to have Main Street coming in at the same time here the year after next.
Yeah.
So as much as we hate it, we're going to be doing a lot more bonding and a lot more tax increases. But, considering a lot of this town was all water and sewer and tarred and curbed and guttered in 1 or 2 years, And we've ran out of our cycle of trying to keep up, and it's all coming to head now. And we're the ones that get the brunt of it. So, I don't know what everybody think, you know, we got a item in front of us to approve the change orders 1, 2, or 3, or do we want to change it, or someone want to make a motion?
I guess just hearing, you say, I mean, assuming that some seal coating could hold things off, I guess that would make me feel more comfortable with what we've got going on here.
Okay, because basically we got the seal coating for this year.
Not now, obviously,
Oh, not
but just in the potential future. Hearing you say that, at least,
I don't know what's been, for the city, public works, schedule is, for what's next, for next year, and years following, but, maybe it's something, comment on if it's, or maybe it's on the schedule already, I don't know.
It's not planned for now, because obviously we're talking about doing it as a reclamation project. So we'd have to add it somewhere if we felt that would be good enough to get it by.
Right.
We'd have to really assess if that would benefit from that to do that versus reclamation.
One of the things that I think when just doing a reclamation on Park Road and on Hickman, we're gonna have a few catch basins and stuff like that, when we do curb repair and stuff like that, storm sewer catch basins, I think there's a few of them that we're gonna end up having a little bit of a cost overrun a little bit on what we planned just to fix those. Because I know that one catch basin across from Hendricks, that one there, the water's not going in the catch basin, it's going alongside, in a hole right alongside of it. So it's like a sinkhole. And it was the same thing last year and it got fixed and now it's back to the same thing again.
Yeah, so with this reclamation project, we, originally had some quantity, included for curb replacement to fix those, small areas, drainage issues.
Mm-hmm,
So that's still in there.
okay.
And not saying we can't, fix a curb issue outside of that project on Hendricks or Kennecott, there's ways to, ways to fix those too.
Right. Does anybody want to entertain a motion or, it's all great discussion and it basically proves to the public that we're doing our jobs. So I never turned down discussion or questions, so.
I'd like to make the motion to proceed with the change orders 1, 2, and 3, reducing the scope of the 2022 project to the 5.8 projected after those change orders.
Just change order.
Well, reduce the scope.
And it's got three,
Yeah, I had the 3 aspects of the one project in there, and then those two.
yeah,
So it's change order 1 to include
yes.
the changes as signified in 1, 2, and 3 from this. Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion by Heidi. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Shallon will second. Any other discussion? Everyone understand the motion? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7B, approve resolution 2022-25, entering into orderly annexation agreement.
Okay, 7B and 7C, they go together, and they're the graphic that's the most easy to follow is the one on page 34 of your packet, which is this here. So Nathan and their investors have submitted a petition for annexation for property they own on Beltline Road. The property is located in both Sauk Center Township and the city of Sauk Center, and I-94 crosses the property. The request is for the city to annex property in the township that lies northerly and easterly of the freeway, and to catch the property that's currently in the city line southerly and westerly of the freeway. So on that survey that I'm showing that is on page 34, the red circled property is currently in the city, and that would revert to the township. And the blue property is in the township, would come to the city. So we're just swapping properties is what we're doing, and the west freeway boundary then would become the city limits for that piece of property. So what this would take is an orderly annexation agreement with the township, and then the city would detach, a resolution of detachment from the city. So I did explain that to you. The shaded property is actually currently in the city on the overall, the pink is the city limits on the aerial view. Because the freeway crosses the property, it's really a separate landowner, so we did have to publish this in the Sauk Herald. We made a notice that was in the paper. The township, we've already had discussions with them, and they're going to put this on their April meeting to finalize it. So because it's an agreement between us and them, there's no remuneration required. If you recall, in the past, if we annex, we pay the township each year. But because we're detaching to them and we're annexing kind of an equal amount of property, we've agreed that there would be no dollars that would have to exchange hands on part of that. So what we're looking to for tonight on 7B is to approve resolution 2022-25, approving the orderly annexation agreement, which is to bring the property in the city, and then the next resolution would be to detach the other piece.
Okay. Questions?
Is this tract, on this 34, this tract A in this red section, is this all one property here? Like all one,
Oh, that triangle?
yeah.
What is the question?
This tract A, it looks like it's kind of being split up and it was already half in the,
Yeah, ignore that. I'm just using the survey to show you
Okay.
the piece that's being.
Yeah, just the red line in that,
okay.
yeah. That wouldn't be any different like in a county line runs right through someone's farm, so. Okay, any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2022-25?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Joe, second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Next one would be approve resolution 2022-26, approving the detachment. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll make a
Motion.
motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Shallen, second by Diane. Any comments or questions about that particular part? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7D, approve resolution 2022-27, accepting quotes for seal coating / crack filling.
So in the February 16 meeting, the council authorized quotes and bids be obtained for crack filling and seal coating on various streets. We did send packets out to contractors in order to perform it, plus we advertised and posted it on the city website. We opened the bids or the quotes on Monday, March 14th. You can see we had 5 people bid for the crack filling, ranging from $14,700 to $30,275. The low bidder being Midwest Asphalt. And on the seal coating, we had 4 bids, ranging from $172, $130 up to $205, $230, $240, with Aztec being the low bidder. And I do have a resolution in your packet awarding those bids. The one thing I did want to point out to you was we did have a budget for the seal coating of $150. And so if it is your desire to stay closer to that amount, I had a conversation with Ben today about some of the streets, and that's the spreadsheet you have in front of you. There's 3 roads around the hospital that are on this, which is 4th Street that goes by the hospital from Main Street to the lake. You have Oak Street, which goes along the hospital parking lot, and then you have 5th Street that goes along the north side of the hospital. And those 3 added together equals $21,332, which would bring us back down to the $150. You might want to consider, I mean, I think we could make the $170 work because we had some funds from the small city money from the county. But on the other hand, with all the construction that's happening right now up there with the nursing home construction, you might want to consider putting off seal coating those roads for this year and add it to next year when we do the rest of the roads up there. So it's just one option that you have. It kind of has 2 benefits, gets us back on the bid and or to our estimate, and it takes those roads around the hospital out until So I guess it's up to you either way, and we'll make either way work for you. But, they have some heavy equipment operating up there right now.
Questions?
Tell me the three roads you said one more time. It was Oak, Fourth,
Fourth Street North from Main going west,
okay,
and then Oak Street North between Fourth and Fifth. And then Fifth Street North goes from Main all the way to Lake Shore. So this is the road south of the hospital, north of the hospital, and along the east side of the hospital.
okay.
Comments?
With all the heavy equipment up there, I'd just soon put that off till next year.
Because we don't know what else they're gonna
Right.
end up doing up there.
Mhm.
Seal coat it after the fact would make more sense, in my opinion.
I agree.
Would be to do it and then just have them cause any damage.
Right.
Not saying that they will, but it's wear and tear
Oh,
that's
yeah.
up and above. So do I have a motion to approve resolution 2022-27, accepting the quotes? The low bid for Midwest Asphalt for the crack filling and Aztec for the seal coat, and whether or not you want to take those three roads off or not.
I'll make the motion.
A motion by Diane, do I have a second?
I'm assuming the
This is-
motion includes removing the three streets, right, Dan?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Heidi, you'll second it? Unless you had seconded that.
It's fine.
Okay. Any other discussion? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7E, approve resolution 2022-28, entering into agency agreement, airport.
So this is the ARG or ARPA grant that I had referred to in the staff report, that we had accepted that federal airport rescue grant for $32,000 at prior meeting. And now this is the funding mechanism where Minnesota Department of Aeronautics will act as the go-between for the fund transfer. We submit reimbursement to MnDOT, they send it to FAA, FAA sends money back to MnDOT, MnDOT sends the money to us. It's just kind of that little dance we go through whenever we have federal money that we have to follow this. So what we're looking for is resolution 2022-28, authorizing the execution of the agency agreement with the Minnesota Department of Transportation for the federal airport expense reimbursement.
Questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2022-28?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Shellen, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7F, approve resolution 2022-28, reestablishing election precinct polling place.
So every 10 years following the completion of the census, district boundaries of legislative and congressional districts are redrawn to ensure that each district has a similar or equal number of residents. The new district boundaries for the Minnesota legislature have been finalized. I did put in your packets Stearns County. The new boundaries do not affect the city's precinct or polling place, but it does change our representation in the State House of Representatives. The city is now required to reestablish our precinct and polling places, essentially confirming what we approved in November, that our precincts and polling places did not change. And so the attached resolution meets those requirements. So as far as our representation in the state, we had Paul Anderson for many years. He is the 12B representative. We are now in 12A. And so it goes from Melrose through Sauk Center and up to Alexandria area. So we've kind of shifted north and west versus south and west of the district that we are in. But we do still have Corey Westrom as our senator. So we just kind of have a little bit of a change. So anything with Paul Anderson lived through the end of 2022 and 2023, that change happens. So we're looking for resolution 2022-29, reestablishing precincts and polling place with the city.
Questions?
So it's going from Paul Anderson to who, did you say?
Whoever the representative
Oh.
will be, because they're up for re-election.
Ah, got it. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2022-29?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Joe,
I'll second.
second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7G, approve payment number 2, Markley Excavating, 2021 street maintenance.
You do have a updated staff report due to some quantity estimates that have changed. This is pay request number 2 for Markley Excavating. This has been a Angelo Drive and East Street Mill and Overlay project. We had retainage of 788805 that we were held holding pending submittal of the lien waivers in the IC 134. But now in addition to that, changes of quantities exceeded the estimate as well at an additional cost of $14,591.50. So the contract amends by the $14,591.50 to a total of $172,352. We've already paid $149,872, so that means this retainage of $22,479. So that $22,479 was the retainage of $78.88 and the $14,500 of additional quantities. So when we bid this out, we bid an estimated quantity at a rate. I think our rate was $55 a ton for the workforce, and the actual quantities that were placed exceeded our estimate, and that's where this extra dollars come from. So we're looking to approve pay request number 2 to Markley Excavating for that $22,479.55.
Questions? Concerns? Do I have a motion to approve pay request number 2?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Shellen, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7H, approve resolution 2022-30, accepting bid for street sweeper.
So we included the replacement of our Eldon street sweeper in the 2022 budget. The Public Works Director obtained a bid for the purchase through the state bidding process, and it's from McQueen Equipment. They have a state bid that we have in your packet. We can work with that state bid, or we can advertise if we feel that we're going to get a lower bid. Sometimes that happens, but usually only if there's a bunch of demos out there that some dealer can sell to you for less than the state bid. There really are no carryover units in stock, and they're actually building out a year ahead, or things are a year behind that right now, so the odds of getting one of those is very low. If we place an order now, the unit would arrive in 2023. The state bid will go up on March 31st of this year, so this is still the old bid. So the bid that you have in your packet is actually, well, the McQueen has one in queue right now, so if we buy this particular machine, then that's our price. If we make a lot of changes, we'll have to find maybe a different one that may be in the queue and it may not be. So you're kind of taking a chance there. The total cost will be about $250,000. Then we have the trade, which they're giving us a trade of the old one to end up with $241,335. So we are looking to approve resolution authorizing the acceptance of the state bid for the street sweeper, if this is the sweeper that you're comfortable going with.
Comments?
What did we have budgeted for this? Do you remember? 250. Oh, that was what was budgeted for it. Okay.
Any other questions? Comments? Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2022-30?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7I, approve request for funding assistance, Sauk River Watershed District Street Sweeper.
So this is goes along with that sweeper. The funding will come in the form of a combination of sources, including the street department, stormwater utility, and we are continuing to work for outside funding. One of those sources of outside funding could be the Sauk River Watershed District. We've had conversations with them in the past. They actually participated in buying the old sweeper that we currently have. Their goal is to remove phosphorus that's going to get into the lake. And so we have some preliminary estimates that calculate the sweeper will remove 84,000 pounds of solids and 72 pounds of phosphorus, which is a significant amount of phosphorus and solids from going into the lake. And that's based on 4 sweepings a year of the city streets. So with the goal of the watershed to reduce those phosphoruses, we believe they may be agreeable to some active participation. So what I'm looking for here is to approve a submittal of a grant watershed district for participation in the funding of the street sweeper.
Questions, concerns?
Is there a certain number that you're asking them for, or just going and asking them if they'll participate?
I'm gonna ask them to participate half.
Any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve submittal of the grant request to Sauk River Watershed District?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Motion by Shellen.
I'll second.
Joel, second. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7J, approve agreement with Silversmith Asset Management.
Over the past several years, we've looked at various options for managing city assets, like public improvement assets. I'm talking about water, sewer, roads, signs, hydrants, curb stops, sidewalks, all those kinds of things that are out there in the city that we're trying to track their maintenance and track their age. And so we have looked at several. It includes mapping of the city's assets via GPS. So that's kind of where everybody is going. So we did receive a proposal from Silversmith Data to contract with them for implementation of this system. It is web-based, so it's all in the cloud, and then your users get logins to access that cloud. So it's continually being updated as we put more information in it. The public utility is interested in doing this, and they approved moving forward with it at their Monday night's meeting. So we would share this cloud with the public utility, and they would have people that could access it, we would have people that could access it. And then each city would decide how much equipment they need, if they need one tablet or GPS, or how they want to make that work. The cost of the city would initially be $1,000 for setup, $600 for that first year data package, payment of a $750 annual fee, and then the cost of purchasing the GPS tablet. So the total first year is $5,450, but then after that, our ongoing is just the annual fee of $750, and then a $600 data plan. It's like a Verizon air card, so that the tablet will work out in the field. So it's a $1,350 after that. The fire department has also expressed interest. They could cover their associated costs. They could use a tablet. It doesn't have to have GPS on theirs, because it won't be probably needing the GPS part of it, but they would need the data package. So if the fire department ultimately wants to have access as well, and they're out in the field, and they want to find a hydrant or do measurements or whatever, then that would be on the fire department side. We also reviewed a quote from Stantec to do the ARIS program. However, after reviewing the extra complexity and everything, I think staff was more comfortable with Silversmith's platform, and also the cost was quite a bit less to go with the Silversmith. So what we're looking to tonight is to approve the agreement with Silversmith for the asset management, and to pair with the Sauk Center Public Utility for that.
Is that like a 50% cost coverage, or how is that defined?
Yeah, we would each do 50-50 on like the annual fee, and then we would each pay our data package for however many tablets we think we want to have. We're proposing just one for the city to go out in the field with that one tablet. PUC may have more than one. You can also access on your phone and on your desktop, so there'll be multiple ways to access them.
Is that unlimited licensure, or is it not limited to licensure? Is it just a,
That's what the $750 is per year. So we would be, either the city will probably be the main host, and then they'll have users and we'll have users, and we'll just split the cost of the package.
Are you limited, there's no cap on the number of users, or if you add?
Number of users, it's not limited. Some of the other programs are like $300 for this kind of user a year, and $200 for that kind of a user, and pretty soon those add up to be a very significant amount. Here, we don't have that. Here, you own it. I can give you access or you access, and we can turn on and off whether you could view it or whether you can make changes. So Ben could send someone out in the field to map all the signs, and it'd be one of his workers, and we could turn on their permissions, so now they have access to make changes to the signs in there, and it goes straight to the cloud, and we can simultaneously see it happen on our end.
Is that something that would be like our right-of-way easements, we'd be able to, who's all in our right-of-ways?
As far as right-of-way easements, we
Well,
can
it's-
map anything in
Okay, all right.
So what would happen first is that the setup part of it would be importing all of our data. You know, it'll take some time to import all of our as-bills and everything in there. And it'll import in a layer that will have aerial view and will have like lots, the different lots in the city. And so it'll be just a bunch of different layers, and whatever layer you're working in, that's the one you turn on. And there could very easily be a easement layer.
Okay.
One other question I guess I've got is the annual fee and the data plan, is that, I mean, I'm assuming that's subject to some sort of increase years going forward, or isn't that something that's been?
Anytime you have a data plan for your Verizon phone,
Right.
it's subject to the ones of.
I just didn't know,
Verizon.
I guess I just didn't know if there was a certain amount of time, like,
Like how many
A lease
years
agreement?
locked into that
right,
price.
right.
We just know that the first year, this is what it is, but looking back historically, they've been really stable. As much information that is in there, we find it surprising that it's as inexpensive as it is. So I would anticipate that it's going to go up in the future, as everything does.
Any other questions or comments? Pros, cons? Otherwise, do I have a motion to approve the agreement with Silversmith?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Shellen, second by Diane. Any other discussion? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Unfinished business, land acquisition, Meyer.
Just a little update on the Meyer land acquisition process. The purchase agreement has been returned, has been received, the abstract, that has all been in, so the Meyers have returned everything they need to return to us. The abstract is currently being updated. Once that's all updated, then we'll get the title opinion and we'll work toward closing on that, which could occur anywhere between the 4th and the 18th of April, just kind of depending on how the timing goes. So by the second meeting of April, we should pretty much be closed on that, and we can start looking at the next steps.
Okay, any questions about that? We'll move on to new business, Streetlights, 2nd Street South.
This is relative to the 2nd Street South project, the street improvement project, which on the project side did not include work on the streetlights. Typically, we handle that more in-house in conjunction with the public utility. Well, the public utility is going to be removing the overhead power lines on 2nd Street and going underground with them. So once that project is done, not only is it going to look different from a street perspective, but the city power line along there is going to be gone as well. Well, that's where our streetlights are, is on these power lines. And so we're looking to have our city staff and the PUC staff look at going with our residential street standard poles and lights to put in there to replace those lights. We estimate that the cost based on a cost estimate to be about $20,000, and that will bring the streetlights on that project area up to our residential street standard that we currently have, and those will all be LED as well. So we're looking to approve the street lighting improvements for that 2nd Street project. The alternative to that is to see if maybe we can leave the poles up, the wooden poles that are there, and work around those. But we have the opportunity now to do this when the street's far up. It kind of makes sense to run that new wire now.
Yep.
Comments or questions?
Good idea.
Otherwise, I'll look for a motion to approve the street lighting improvements for 2nd Street project.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. This brings us to our consent agenda. We have schedule of claims, unpaid claims of $118,664.44. Paid claims of $504 for a total of $119,168.44. We have February checks, paid claims / payroll of $457,517.90. Is there any questions about the consent calendar as presented? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Heidi. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Informational items?
We have a couple, informational items from Charter. One is a channel item change, and the other is, in fact, they're decreasing what they charge people for unreturned equipment. So normally they don't decrease, but
Excuse me.
they're decreasing that if you don't return equipment, to them they bill you. Well, what they're gonna bill you now went down significantly, so I'm not quite sure how that works for them. And then the other thing is a channel lineup. And then the third thing I have, excuse me, is a hazardous paint pickup. Paint, rotate tar, use more oil. It's at the Civic Arena on Wednesday, June 15th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And I do need volunteers to help work that event. So if anybody's interested in volunteering for that, that's when that's going to occur. That's all I have.
Okay. Any questions about those two items? Okay, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
By Heidi, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Joel. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned.